Chag Sameach to you all. We're going to continue learning a little bit about Sfirat Omer. The last 2 days we were learning some basic stuff, how we need to approach the period. And before we start the class tonight, we're going to be counting Netzach Shebechesed. Today it's still 3. In a few minutes it will be ready tonight, then we're going to count the 4th day. The Sfirah is called Netzach Shebechesed. Netzach Shebechesed is representing the tikkun of the nefesh, the rectification of the actual nefesh. We might get to talk about it, if not today, then another time, about a big part of the Sfirat Omer is the tikkun for all levels of our neshama, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yichida. But specifically we start with a lower level, that is tikkun nefesh. Most of the Sfirat Omer is going on the nefesh itself. I have explained, we're learning every Tuesday the gates of reincarnation by the Arizal. And we explained a long time ago in chapter number 1 that's based on the teachings of the Arizal, is when a person comes back to this world, is called a Gilgul. Gilgul is that the neshama comes back into the body. Can be many different reasons why one will come in a Gilgul. Many attribute it to a punishment, that a person did something wrong in a different life and now is coming to pay the bill, which is not far from the truth. It is right in most cases. But before the person messed up, in order to pay the debt, the person needs to come down to this world to climb up in the levels of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yichida. And the first round, so to say, till the person gets it right, is a tikkun in the level that is referring to the part of the soul that is called nefesh. Specifically, it's not now we don't have time to explain it in details, but specifically in the level of nefesh there are 50 levels. And the Ari explains it in a way that we know about 5 worlds, and each world has 10 sfirot, but each world before the sfirot has 5 partzufim, and each partzuf has 10 sfirot, making it that each level has 50, each world has 50 levels. And based on the 5 worlds that we know, the worlds from below to above, the world of Asiyah, then the world of Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, and Ak. Ak is the acronym of Adam Kadmon. Each one of these worlds corresponding to one level of the Neshama. The world of Asiyah will correspond to the level that is Nefesh, Yetzirah for Ruach, Bria to Neshama, Atzilut to Chaya, and Ak to Yechidah. And the person, I can't really say a person, but the neshama has to go through one level to another level to another level till it reaches a rectification. That's why we came down to this world. We didn't come here to watch movies and to surf on Facebook. We came here to reach a higher madriga. Why? Because we say that every day, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael, lefichach hirba lehem Torah u'mitzvot. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us a more merit, a higher level, so he gave us a lot of Torah and mitzvot. You can read it as Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Israel. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give the nation of Israel more merits. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, don't say lezakot, rather lezakech. Lezakech, to refine, to purify, to elevate. So we came here only for one reason, is to elevate ourselves to a higher level, because we were here and now we want to go here. And that means closer to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu means a greater godly revelation. Greater godly revelation, a much more profound spiritual experience for the neshama. But specifically when it comes to the nefesh has to climb 50 levels. And I always give the same example, that in this world there's a game, we call it snakes and ladders. Some people call it chutes and ladders. But nevertheless, the rule of the game is that you have a board and you throw a dice and you start walking on the board. And if you hit a ladder, you go up. And if you hit a snake, you go down. And you can go to position 98. Depends on the board. Usually the board is 100 places, but you can get to all the way to the top. You hit one snake and you go all the way down. Which amazingly you would think this is a kid's game, but look at the Kabbalistic meaning behind this game. A ladder is an opportunity, an auspicious time to jump in my madriga, in my level, and a snake is the Yetzer Hara that waits to me in the corner and makes me fail, and I fall all the way down, back to square one. And today, this is what we're going to concentrate a lot on in this class, about this idea of the going up and down. But before we go to the class and we want to understand more the idea of Netzach Shebechesed, then I have to refine mainly my nefesh. This is mainly what we're working on. Sometimes I meet people that I don't know where they come up with that nonsense, and they tell me, "Oh, I'm a soul from the world of Atzilut." Really? Well, nice to meet you, soul from the world of Atzilut. So Moshe Rabbeinu was from the world of Atzilut. David HaMelech, Avraham Avinu. We're not from the world of Atzilut. Yes, we are rooted in the world of Atzilut. That's no question. But specifically our neshama, if it's scraping the bottom of the world of Asiyah, we should be very grateful. So, and we don't go to those levels. We do see sometimes in our generation and many other generations, souls that do come from the world of Bria and Yetzirah, and it's pretty obvious to see it. Also in the Sfirot, we know that the lower parts of the nefesh correspond to the mochin of the Sfirot, Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at. The world of Bria will correspond to Chokhmah. So sometimes when you see a certain individual that is a great genius in the Torah, but I'm not talking about somebody who knows a few psukim off by heart. I'm talking like in our generation, like a Rabbi Kanievsky, that this is a gaon in the Torah, genius. You can really see that. I mean, I'm nobody to say who and what and who comes from where, but you can kind of say, okay, this specific individual, there's a very good chance that his neshama is from the world of Bria. Why? Because he's a Talmid Chacham. He's a genius. He's not a Talmid Chacham. He's a walking library. And he knows the Torah inside out. Why? Because the neshama has the capacity of the world of Bria. And I'm not nobody to say who's who. I'm just saying in general, you can look at such a great man and say, okay, this is a very good chance that his neshama is from the world of Bria. Why? Because it comes into this world, the capacity and knowledge in the Torah is beyond what we can understand. What an average person will do in his whole life, the great rabbi like that does maybe in a day. I mean, he finishes the whole Shas every year. I mean, most people don't even finish the whole Shas the entire life. Forget about in the level how he learns the Shas. It's not even the level that we can even think of. So this is just one example out of many, but we are in most cases, most likely we're from the world of Asiyah. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also a lot of advantages of him being from the world of Asiyah. But nevertheless, we're refining the level of nefesh. And the nefesh specifically has to climb 50 levels. And again, you can go to the Gates of Reincarnation, chapter 1 and 2. The Ari Kadosh is talking a lot about this specific concept, how the nefesh of the person has to climb and climb and climb, and will fall and climb and fall and like a yo-yo. But once the person reaches to the 50th level in the world of Asiyah, the nefesh is called nefesh metukenet, and then it reaches the level of ruach, and then the nefesh cannot be touched anymore. Which we explained in many different classes what happens after that, how the person will receive the level of ruach and so forth. But specifically in Sfirat Omer, this is one thing that we focus on, is the refinement of the level of our nefesh. Specifically, the Sfirah, the day of Netzach Shebechesed, has the power of Tikkun HaNefesh. The first week is kind of including all the rest of the 7 weeks. What does it mean, Tikkun HaNefesh, the rectification of my nefesh? Is that today I receive the power to overcome, to win, so to say. Netzach is come from the word nitzachon, is to win over my fights, my challenges. Now, how is that practically said? Because one can take this to a completely different direction. Our life is not a competitive life. We're not in a competition who reads more Tehillim or who comes first to the shul. This is not the idea. Rather, Bechlal, when we're focusing on the week of Chesed, Chesed will be equal to the idea of love. Yesterday we explained it and the day before. So we all have love in our hearts. And it can be love to my wife, love to my kids, and it can be also love to a cookie and love to many other things that not necessarily that love is expressed in the right way. But since we are a manifestation of Hashem, B'Tselem Elokim Nivra Adam, then since Hashem has love to His creations, then we have love to everything. Even if it's forbidden, there's an idea behind it. Because there's a godly spark, even in things that are forbidden, and when I have a desire for it, yes, if you're looking at it on the surface, it's coming from a negative place. If you're looking at it in a very deep way, then it's because I want to be connected to that. Once I gave an example, it's a little bit extreme, but just to give an idea, and unfortunately, most men, they have a weakness when it comes to the other gender. Unfortunately, some have the weakness to the same gender, but that's a whole different thing. But most men, healthy in their mind, they have a weakness to the other gender. And many men will see an attractive woman, and right away the focus will go on the woman. One can say, okay, it's a very low level. Well, what are you desiring? Another body? It's a flesh, it's bones, it's blood. What are you desiring here? If you're looking in a very deep way, a woman, her soul is pulled, it's rooted from Bina. And Bina and Malchut. And she possesses a much more greater spark from the Shekhinah. And when a man desires a woman, it's because deep down inside, the Neshama has the desire to be connected to the Shekhinah. Just that it's manifested in so many contractions that it's dressed into our body, then the desire is for the body. But you can look at things in a much more deeper way. So even when I have some type of an attraction to something simple, a cookie or a chocolate or whatever it is, some physical pleasure, you can look at it in a very superficial way and say, okay, this is a very low level. And you can look at it in a more deeper way and say, okay, there's a godly spark there. I'm attracted to that. That's why I'm attracted to this, and you are attracted to that, because there's a connection of our nefesh and the godly spark that it's in many things. So you would like chocolate, and I would like ice cream, and he would like cake, or whatever it is. I'm specifically saying food because the majority of our tikkun is in food. That's why you see that we're constantly around. It's all our life is around food. Besides the fact that the first sin was with food. We do have a very big tikkun in food. Most people, they have weaknesses to food. One is coffee, one is chocolate, one is rogolach, and so forth. But nevertheless, I possess in me a lot of love. Now, specifically in the week of Sefirah of Chesed, is a concentration of Chesed is love. Is a concentration of love. So we said in the beginning that Chesed Sheba Chesed, I have to do kindness in the kindness. Gvura is I can't have too much love. I have to know when to put a boundary. And Tiferet Sheba Chesed is when I find the harmony. Netzach Sheba Chesed is that I have to find in my relationships there is love there. It can be my wife, can be my kids, can be many other options, can be my friends, my co-workers. Has to be most of the relationships in our life are not healthy relationships. Very few people know how to maintain healthy relationships. Most people have not a healthy relationship, whether with their parents or maybe one of the parents, maybe with a kid, with the wife. That's the reality. The reality, it's a distorted reality because that's not a healthy reality. But that's the sad truth, that we all have bad relationships. Why? Because there's no right connection in the relationship. I know people that love their kids dearly or their parents dearly, but they don't get along. Can't get along. Every encounter is a fight. Every encounter is an argument, disagreement, fighting constantly. Why? Because one does not know how to let the flow go in a very healthy way. Comes this specific day, and this specific tikkun of Netzach Sheba Chesed. Netzach, there's a word in Hebrew for the word in English conductor. Conductor in Hebrew is menatzeach. A conductor, the one who goes like that. Now imagine now in a relationship that it's a band, not a band. How do you say orchestra? Now the conductor is the one who's kind of conducting, who's playing right now. But imagine now an orchestra with two pieces. One piece is me, and one piece is the person that is in my relationship. I have to be the one that knows when to, in other words, when to shut up, when to let the other person express. Because when the motion is going with no, you are now on the giving side and I will be on the receiving side and vice versa. When the energy is going one direction, there can be a lot of love there, but nothing's going to happen. Rather bad relationships, bad communication, which will end up in a bad, so to say, exchange of information. Specifically, Netzach Shebechesed is to take the love that I have to my parent, to my kid, to my wife, and to know how to overpower in a way that, sometimes it's the time for my wife to shine, and for her to talk, and for her to be the special one and to be spoiled, and not me. I know that most of us want to be heard, and most of us think that I am the center of the world. But sometimes, especially in a relationship, it's the other person that needs to shine a little bit, and it requires me to shut up, basically, in other words, and to be quiet, and to step back. So specifically, this is practically saying, we're going to talk practically here about about Sfirat Omer, not to start throwing big terms in the air, because the big terms are worthless. We want to be, connected to the ground. Basically saying, in other words, that I need to know when to let the other person play in this orchestra. If I'm not the conductor, but I am, let's say in this example, the orchestra has two, how do you say it? Not musicians, two instruments. Sorry, thank you. So there's two instruments in this orchestra right now. Now, if I'm an instrument that is very powerful, I will overpower the other instruments. Go now to an orchestra, you can have 50 violins there. Just bring one instrument, it will overpower all these violins in one shot, one instrument. So just take the example here of an orchestra, a two-man orchestra. And sometimes my instrument needs to take a break so the other instrument can play. And then you hear the beauty. Wait a minute, I didn't know my wife is so smart. Most people, they don't even know. Even Avraham Avinu is not, that's not what we're referring to. But it says when Avraham Avinu, when he was old, he says about his wife, Ataya dati, now I know that my wife is beautiful. Where were you for 90 years? So, of course, Avraham Avinu was in a completely different level. This is not the right example. But we are tangled in a lot of relationships. Most people don't know the other person in the relationship. Most people don't really know their wife or their husband or their parents or their kids. Why? Because I feel I'm the center. So I have to be constantly on the projecting side. And sometimes the other person needs to project too, and I have to be the receiver. And a person who wants to have a healthy relationship knows how to zip it. Why? Because the person needs to let his instruments play. It doesn't matter, it can be a 3-year-old child, and it can be a nagging parent. I know, I understand that sometimes the parent can be like, very, very annoying in many different ways, but it doesn't matter. I need to know when in the orchestra to let the other instrument play a little bit, and this specifically comes from the koach, the power, to let me overpower it, is what we're going to focus about tonight and tomorrow. And practically saying is you find somebody that you have a relationship with that is not such a great relationship for whatever reason. And you're saying, how can I better this relationship by letting that person play their instrument? By saying, okay, honey, you tell me how was your day today. And not only that, is to let the other person in the relationship play their tune. Because when there's our life is based on relationship. I have a wife, I have kids, I have a boss, I have workers, I have friends, I have co-workers, I have the guys that pray with me in my minyan. There's many different types of relationships. And if I have good relationships, then you know what? I don't fight, I don't argue, there's no lashon hara all the time. Some people all day long like a yachne. He said, she said, he said, they said, oh, quack, quiet already, all day long. And it's very unhealthy. It causes the person to be very aggravated, very upset, very agitated, very depressed, because every type of encounter is not a healthy encounter. I want to reach to a healthy encounter. As I said before already, the point of Sfirat HaOmer is equilibrium, izun, balance everything, harmony. Tonight, this is what we're going to focus on, and tomorrow, this is what I want to apply in my life. Take this little advice and apply it in your life, and you want to apply it with all the relationships that you have. Because I have, Baruch Hashem, 6 kids, it means 6 types of relationships, 12 different relationships, with one kid and the other. Baruch Hashem, I only have 1 wife, so I don't know if I could handle 2. I don't know, Yaakov is my hero, 2 wives, unbelievable. But Baruch Hashem, so I need to know how to nourish this relationship. Baruch Hashem, I have parents, I have cousins, siblings, whatever it is. So this will be what we're going to concentrate on specifically on this Sfirah. Now, to just talk a little bit more, to more reiterate about Sfirat HaOmer, is that physically, what happened during the time? At the time of Shavuot, they sacrificed a certain sacrifice, and it was not an animal, it was a vegetation, and it was specifically barley, seorim. This is Korban Omer. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't a group of animals, rather the Korban that they offered on Shavuot was barley. If you remember, if you attended, if not, you can find the video online. We spoke about right before Pesach, one of the classes we learned from the teachings of Levi Yitzchak from Bardichov, where we touched the 2 sacrifices of Pesach and Shavuot. One was wheat, one was barley. And anyway, it's a very interesting class. But nevertheless, what happened on the Omer is that they sacrificed barley, which is a food for an animal. Basically saying, in other words, that the entire 7 weeks of Sfirat HaOmer is when I sacrifice my animal. Is when I, so to say, take the animalistic character traits in me, and that's what I'm refining. Because really, what needs the most refinement is my nefesh habehemit. That wants to sleep, that wants to eat, that wants to procreate, that wants to be lazy, that wants to have enjoyment in this world. And this is the time where I have to put my animal soul under control. And mainly to refine the animal in me. That's why every day, when we're concentrating on something, I have to pinpoint on something. What is the nefesh habehemit that is being fed here? So what I just mentioned before, when I want to be the one who's talking and not the other person in the relationship, this is only coming from my nefesh habehemit. It's my ego, that I need to be heard, I need to be the center, I need to be the one that gets all the attention. Now, in a very interesting way, the Ari HaKadosh says in a book called Sha'ar HaKavanot, which amazing, we were speaking yesterday and the day before how the Sfirat HaOmer, we call it, we're going through levels that are called gates, she'arim. And I mentioned how all the scripts, all the writing and the teachings of the Ari HaKadosh are also categorized in she'arim. So there's a book called Sha'ar HaKavanot. I don't know if to call it the gates of intentions or I don't know if we know how to translate it the right way, but kavanah is to have the right intention. Anyway, specifically in this book called Sha'ar HaKavanot, he gives a very beautiful metaphor. First of all, he says that a woman, when she gets her cycle, she is forbidden for her husband to touch her. And for 7 days, well, first of all, while she has her cycle, then the husband and the wife cannot touch each other, and needless to say, cannot have marital relations. And then once she stops with the cycle, she has to count 7 days. 7 days to be clean. And only after that, she goes to the mikveh, and then she's permitted to her husband, she's Torah, she's pure. And she's then ready to come back, so to say, to her husband, and needless to say, with the potential of bringing life to the world. The Arizal says that the 7 weeks of the Omer are exactly the same idea. Just that a woman has to count 7 days for her husband, we have to count 7 weeks for our master, for our husband. I mean, we are a manifestation of the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of the divine, and Hashem is our husband. So just we have to count, instead of 7 days, 7 days times 7. But the idea is that it's time of a cleansing. Hashem wants to so to say, come into unity with us, and I have to cleanse myself. The Ari explains in Sha'ar HaKavanot a very interesting concept. There is two ideas in the teachings of Kabbalah and Chassidut that is called Katnut HaMochin and Gadlut HaMochin. Mochin is the intellect, and Gadlut is broadness, if that's really a way to say a word, but a very broad horizon. And Katnut is a very narrow, it's not small, and Gadlut is not big, rather wide and broad. Katnut HaMochin is where most people are kind of stuck in, that their intellect is very narrow, and they don't see too much to other sides. And one example out of many of Katnut HaMochin, we see now in our generation, I don't know in our other generation how it was, but in our generation there are many sects in Judaism. Sephardi, Ashkenaz, and different Hasidic groups, Breslev and Chabad and Tzanz and whatever it is, there's so many different groups. Sometimes you see two Hasidim from two different groups, they meet. And they start arguing. My Rebbe is better than your Rebbe. His Torah is better than your Rebbe's Torah. We are more right. And this is Katnut HaMochin. That one sees, no, I'm better than you. No, you're not. Who told you that you're better than me? Because you're wearing your hat a different way than me? Or because you follow a different tzaddik? This is one example of Katnut HaMochin, that one person thinks, I'm better than you because I belong to this group and my group is better than your group. And no, it's not. There's a reason why there's groups. I don't necessarily support the idea of the groups, because very soon Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be groups. When Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be such a thing as Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, and there's not going to be groups. There's going to be one nation. So already now we have to start applying the idea that there's no groups. There's tribes, that's a whole different concept, but the groups, you think Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be groups? There's not going to be that anymore. And you think when a soul goes up to Shamayim, there's a Gan Eden for the Chabadnikim and a Gan Eden for the Breslevers? There's no such a thing. So Gadlut HaMochin is that the Chabadnik and the Breslever meets, and the Breslever tells the Chabadnik, teach me some of your Torah, what your Rebbe is teaching. And the Chabadnik tells the Breslever, yeah, I want you to teach me what your Rebbe is teaching. Let's share the Torah right now. You teach me, I'll teach you. Let's grow together. Let's share this Torah and the love together. There's no difference between us. This is Gadlut HaMochin. This is one example out of many, but take that and you can already explain it in many other things. Katnut is very narrow-minded. I don't see right and left, and Gadlut is that I see the broad picture. The Ari HaKadosh explains that when a person is in a state of Katnut, then just imagine a funnel going this direction. Then what happens? There's only one way of one direction. And Ari explains that when a person is in a level of Katnut, all the gvurot, the dinim, the judgments are able to enter, but no chasadim. So the person is just bringing more gvura. There's no place for the chesed to come in. This is what the Ari explains. Really what it means is that the person is just increasing more gvura, more din, more judgment, more severity. Severity is a very healthy thing, but not too much of it. And if there's an equal quantity, so to say, of gvura and chesed, that's normal. When there's too much gvura, that's not a good time. That's not a good situation. The whole idea of the Omer is to elevate the root of the nefesh, is to bring back the existence, it's the reality back to its root. Now, what happens is that the yesod of the behemah, we do have an animal in us. The yesod of it, the foundation of it, is when the sphira of the yesod falls down. Because the yesod is the foundation, the behemah, the animal within us, is rooted in the sphira of the yesod, and when the sphira of the yesod falls, then the behemah, the animal, falls too. And my whole idea is to elevate it. There is a verse in the book of Mishlei. Mishlei in English is called the Proverbs. by Shlomo HaMelech. There's a verse there in chapter 24. It says, Sheva ipol tzadik vakam. I don't remember exactly the translation, but something like 7 times a righteous person will fall and get up. Basically saying that even a righteous person has to fall. There is an idea why we fall. Because the whole motion of this world is falling. If you go now to a hospital and you look at a monitor of a person that is connected, then you see the rhythm of life is going up and down. Tit-tit, tit-tit. If chas v'shalom, the line is flat, there's no life. It symbolizes death. There's no chayut, there's no life there. What shows me life is the monitor going up and down. So the whole rhythm of life is the one time I'm up, and then one time I'm down. And then one time I'm up, and then one time I'm down. Basically saying, in other words, this is the intention of Hashem, that you fall and then you get up. Why? Because when you get up to a higher level. And you fall again, no problem. You get up to a higher level. The idea is that I don't have to be afraid of falling. I have to be afraid of not getting up. So most people are afraid of falling. They put themselves under a lot of pressure. And not to fall, not to fail. And that's the wrong attitude. The attitude has to be that you have to be afraid of not getting up. Because most people, they fall and they don't get up. Every Friday we sing a song written by Rabbi Shlomo El-Kabetz that was a very big Mekubal. I mean, he lived here in this, right in this city. But if you read the meaning behind Lecha Dodi, I promised a few months ago that we'll do one time a course just about Lecha Dodi, and the Kabbalistic idea behind it. It's unbelievable. But if you're looking at the fourth paragraph, it has a beautiful meaning here, and it says, Hitna'ari me'afar kumi. Hitna'ari is shake it off. Me'afar is from the dust, get up. Basically saying, in other words, Hashem is the one who pushes you down. But you have to get up, shake it off, and to move on. When you do that, look at the continuation of the verse, V'livshi bigdei tif'ar techami, and wear the garments, the beautiful, glorious garments of my nation. So the idea of this world is that there is going to be falling. That's how Hashem designed this world, that you will fall. The question is how you're getting up. If you stay on the ground, then you lost. But if you get up and you brush the dirt off, that's the victory. It's not if you sinned or not. Hashem is not looking necessarily at the sin. Hashem is looking if you're getting up. Hashem is looking how's your attitude after you fail. After you fell, if you're going to get upset, if you're going to lose your temper, if you're going to get discouraged, if you're going to not show up the next day to the minyan, or you say, okay, nothing happened, I'm human, and I'll brush off the dirt and I'm going to continue walking. I always give the same example that a few years ago I went to a lecture and there was a young man there that attended the lecture and he got very inspired, totally unobservant individual, but he got very inspired. So he used to come every Wednesday. I had a class. I lived in New York at the time. Every Wednesday I had a class. He started attending the class. After maybe 2 months, every Wednesday he would come and I would see that he's so attentive, listening in every detail, not missing a detail. After a while, we got a little bit friendly, so I started to get more in touch with him, and to make a very long story short, he started putting tefillin on. And after that, I started inviting him to pray with us. After a few months down the line, he used to come every day to pray with us. And which was unbelievable to see a young man, not observant at all, coming every morning to pray shacharit and putting tefillin and learning. One day he didn't come. So I called him, what's going on? Are you sick? He tells me, no, I had enough. I'm out. Don't call me anymore. So they, what do you mean you're out? He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Please don't call me anymore. I had enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He tells me, listen, I feel like a hypocrite. And I'm trying to get the information. What do you mean you feel like a hypocrite? So he tells me, listen, you know where I was last night? I said, I don't really care where you were. He's like, I'll tell you. I was in a club, in a party. And I was like, okay, no, fine. He's like, you know what I did last night? I said, I don't really care what you did. He's like, I'll tell you what I did. I met a girl. And then I went home and I did this and I did that and I did all the sins in the book. And I was like, okay, no, so what? What do you think, the only one? There's another 2 billion like you. What's new? En chadash tachat hashemesh. What do you want to tell me? He's like, you want to tell me that yesterday I did all that I did, and today I'm going to have the chutzpah to show up to the shul and to put tefillin on me and to put talit on me and to pray? I feel like a hypocrite. I told him, listen, I'm very sorry to tell you, but I think you're suffering from a very rare disease of stupidity. Because what's the connection between the fact that yesterday you sinned and today didn't show up to shul? What's the connection between one to the other? He's like, well, and I told him, no, I don't know. Because the fact that you sinned yesterday, that's one problem. The fact that you didn't show up to shul today, that's a bigger problem. Because you know how many positive mitzvot from the Torah you didn't do by not showing up to shul? And who gave you an exemption to do that? If you would come to shul, you would put tefillin on. That's 2 positive mitzvot from the Torah. Tefillin of the head, tefillin of the hand. You would put a talit on. That's a positive mitzvah from the Torah. You would say Shema Yisrael. That's a positive mitzvah in the Torah. You would pray. Another positive mitzvah from the Torah. You would most likely put some coins in this charity box. Another positive mitzvah from the Torah. You would learn a little bit of Torah. Another positive mitzvah from the Torah. You want me to continue? How many mitzvot you miss? Because you think you're a hypocrite? Who's asking you? Who told you you're not allowed, you are okay with not coming to shul today? I told him, you know where the judgment goes? Only the fact that yesterday you were at a party, that you didn't come to shul. That's where the judgment is going to go. When you're going to have a lawsuit in Shamayim, it's not because you sinned with a girl. The Shamayim, they sent you the girl to tempt you and to make you fail. To see how you wake up in the morning. If you wake up in the morning and say, okay, listen, I'm human, nothing happened, I'll do tshuva, Bezrat Hashem, Hashem will forgive me, but I'm not missing the minyan. I'll go to the mikveh, take a shower, get clean, and I'm not missing my minyan. I'm not allowed to not put tefillin on, I'm not allowed to not pray. So I told him, you look where you failed. If you would come to shul this morning, I can guarantee to you that 90% of the sin would be completely erased. Because the test was to see how you're waking up in the morning. And if you're going to wake up depressed, sad, upset, angry, well, look at yourself, what happens when you sin. You get upset and you scream at your wife. What did the wife do? What do you want from her? Because you sinned. And you feel that you are a failure. So the idea is that the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to push you. Now let's see how you get up. Now if you get up like a fighter, then you won. You know that one of the most popular sports in the world, if I will make a questionnaire now, that people will throw whatever, football, basketball, but I'll tell you what's one of the most popular sports in the world. Fighting. You put two men in a ring, let them fight, let them kill each other. You have 150 million people glued to the screen to see who's going to throw the stronger punch. Why is it so popular? Because we get some type of an excitement to see who's going to overpower. And when one guy gets knocked down, and everybody's cheering, he gets up, the crowd goes berserk because he got up. So the same thing here. Hashem says, I'm going to knock you down. Now let's see how you get up. And if you get up, then we're going to cheer to you. And if you're not going to get up, then you lost the round. And that's the idea behind Sfirat Omer, is that I have to understand that I will constantly fall and fail. That's how the system of the world works. I need to be scared of not getting up. My whole agenda is when I fail, so understand, okay, this is a test right now, how am I getting up? And that's the idea of Sfirat Omer, because I started the class by saying that when the level of the nefesh, you go up and you go down, you go up and you go down. The chutes and ladders. One time you up, one time you down. One time you up, when you up, don't get full of ego and like, look at me, I'm showing up to the minyan every day. Hashem is the second that you forget a little bit of ego, that's when Hashem is going to step back out on you. But the point is that I'm constantly going up and down in the chutes and the ladders, and I have to understand that I will fall down, and every time that I fall down, I elevate something. And when I get up, I go to a higher level. And that's another general idea of Sfirat Omer, is that I refine one level, after another level, after another level. Our sages say, En chacham ke ba'al nisayon. The person who has experience, that's the wise person. Because he already went through this. He already knows how to handle this. You know, a man, a woman in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they're looking at a young individual in their 20s, they're like, rocky. You know, when you train, you think you know everything. When you're 60, 70, you look at the 20-year-old, you're like, come on. I mean, what I already forgot, you didn't even do yet. So the idea is that I have to understand that Sfirat HaOmer is the idea behind it is the going down and going up, and the going down and the going up. And when I go down, it's time to take momentum. And when I go up, I go to a higher level. And every time that I go to a higher level, I take something with me from the world below. Because specifically, the Sfirah of Yesod is the Sfirah that fell down. This is the root of the behemah, of the animal. And I have to elevate it constantly. Constantly I'm elevating it. So the mind frame behind that I need to understand is that there is the idea of going up and going down and going up and going down. And it's not how you fall, it's how you get up. And that's why every day we count 1 unit. Because 1 unit is what you did that day. Hashem is not looking... When Hashem judges us, so to say, He looks at everything as a whole. That's why they kind of like weigh the mitzvot and the sins. But Hashem is also focusing on 1 day at a time. Because I'm not so knowledgeable in sports, but I do know that sometimes in sports, they don't give you marks based on performance, on what you did, rather on performance. And they evaluate how was your performance in this round. Like you said with boxing. Sometimes there's no knockout. Who's the winner? Somebody is the winner. How? They see the performance in every round. Who was more whatever. I don't know. I don't know all the little details, but they look at the performance of every round or every action. Same thing here. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, look at every day 1 day at a time. Because if you look at everything as one large part, it's going to be way too much to handle. Hashem says, take 1 day at a time. Why do 1 day at a time? You make your refinement, your rectification. And one time you fall, and one time you get up. This is totally normal. I just need to understand that when I fall for a purpose. My analogy is that when you fall down, you fall on a diamond. If you have too much ego, you don't look down, you don't see that you're on a diamond. Then you just whine and you get upset and you lose your temper. But if you are humble, then you see that you are on a diamond. A few months ago we go every Friday, I take my boys to the mikveh of the Ari, and there's a couple hundred stairs there, in case you didn't notice. There's a lot of stairs. And one of my boys, he's young, he's like, I don't want to go today. I want to go to that mikveh. I said, no, but we're going there. I don't want to go, and he didn't really want to go. And, to convince him and to get him to go all excited, so I told him, don't worry, you'll see that if you make the effort to go all the way down and all the way up, Hashem will reward you. As we're going up, I don't even know how Hashem did such a miracle. As we're going up on the stairs, suddenly he finds a candy. He's like, look, I found a candy. Totally sealed, everything's perfect. I told him, you see, Hashem gave you a reward. Probably some person walked and candies fell out of his pocket. He found five candies all going up on the stairs. And he didn't want to go down because he says the stairs are hard. And every couple stairs he finds a candy. He's like, look, I found another candy. And I told him, you see, you made an effort. Hashem give you a candy. From that day on, he walks all like this on the floor. If you lose something, call him, he'll find it. He finds rings and earrings, whatever you want to find, he finds. He's all the time looking on the floor. So he got the point that when Hashem goes like this, Hashem is telling you there's a diamond on the floor. You just, your ego doesn't let your head go down, so you're looking straight up. Hashem says, I'm going to just bend your head, I'm going to help you, I'm going to bend your head a little bit down, so you can look down a little bit and to understand that there's diamonds on the floor. So Hashem pushes us on a diamond. Now if I'm in the wrong place, what we said before, katnu tamochin, I will start complaining. It's his fault. It's his fault. She started. He did this. This is katnu tamochin. I have to go out of this katnu tamochin and say, wait a minute, whoa, I failed. Let's see what's going on here. Hashem sent me now to this pit in this world to elevate it, to refine something here, because there's a diamond down here. And this is gadlut hamochin, that I see, even negative situation, there's something good here. Even a negative relationship, something has to be rectified here. There's no such a thing that there's something bad or evil or mean in this world. En ra yored min hashamayim. Our sage says there's no such a thing that Hashem brings some bad or evil into the world. I just see it dressed in a completely different way. So I have to take all this information and to broaden the way I look at every situation. I want to bring myself to the level what's called gadlut hamochin. And I can do it like a worker, by literally working on myself and praying a lot and learning a lot, specifically the mystical part of the Torah. That will cause my mochin to be broadened. When a person learns 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day of Chassidut and Kabbalah and Zohar, it broadens the mochin. But I can also do it with my practical avodah. Is that every situation, stop, don't jump to conclusion, let me see what's going on here. If there's an argument right now, don't apply now katnut hamochin right away, find the fault. No, wait, let me digest it a little bit. That's the idea of Sfirat Omer, that I digest one step, another step, another step, another step, another step. To get from the food, the spiritual food that I eat, instead of an animal food like the barley, I refine myself to eating a human food, of a Adam, of a human, to digest spiritually. Bezrat Hashem, you need to take all these points and to know how to apply them and to understand that these 7 weeks are the time of refinement. It's the time when I can refine myself for the rest of the year. This is the time. Bezrat Hashem should have the right ability and the energy and the desire to apply it. Bezrat Hashem, we should continue every day to grow and grow. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.